This boy is being sent on a mission to enter enemy lines, but the catch is the enemy are all girls. He's stuck in a world where men live in one nation, while the women live on the other half of the continent. Currently, the girls actually rule the world and are stronger, where they call themselves foxes, while the guys call themselves the wolves. And so the story continues outside the promised land of Puzzle, where the elite swordsmen from both nations congregate to do some rice cake smashing. With Karim unable to win over the rice cake of Ara, the #1 swordsman of the wolves is busy slashing his way out of the woods, trying to escape some mysterious men chasing him. But then the Ultra Simp stops in his tracks, going from 69 to 0 as quick as possible, as he knows he can't outrun those pursuing him. And so Karim chooses to stand his ground, as it's time to activate his Ultra Instincts, since he is the rank 1 man within the wolves after all. However, instead of activating Ultra Instincts, he tries his hardest to cosplay Zoro from One Piece, since he wants to be on a list of the best swordsmen in anime. With just the blink of the eye, he's able to defeat 4 of the masked men without breaking a sweat, but the battle is not over yet. After easily dispatching 4, round 2 begins with a boss battle, as a huge man comes out of nowhere with a gigantic swing. Now it looks like some kind of battle relative to sword size, but Karim loses that battle again, just like when he lost to Herring's Prince Behemoth. Regardless, Karim is still able to parry the blow, but surprisingly, it seems as if he actually knows the man who just attempted to destroy his life. After a quick exchange of words, the two both step back, but the boss man starts talking about he was worried that Karim's skills would not be up to par after being stationed at a rural town. It's then revealed that the mysterious man is actually the captain of the royal guards for the wolves, who goes by the name Jinyang. Karim then discovers that this old man was just passing by, but then he decided to stop by and test the powers of an old friend after not seeing him for a while. However, Jinyang reveals that he's also on a mission to escort a royal representative, whom starts showing himself in the background. After getting closer, we find out that it's the same bad man from the palace that gave the former rank 1 of the wolves the sussy serum to make her crave banana trees. His name is Samunsol, and he's the head of the research department for the royal family. Meanwhile, Ara finally decides to let Herring show his banana plantation to her, so she tells him he has exactly 1 minute with her going starfish. She then says that during the entire 1 minute, Herring is free to do anything she wants, so she asks if the terms are good enough. For most boys evolving into manhood, 1 minute is more than enough, but this is Herring, the owner of the Prince Behemoth. However, Herring learns that when she meant anything, she meant that he can do anything, except sliding in the actual banana tree into its soil. So he decides to counter-offer like he's on Shark Tank, trying to negotiate a 2-minute timer instead of 1, since Puzzle is meant for rice cake destroying, not for turning banana trees blue. After hesitating for a few seconds, she ends up accepting the new terms, so now our boy has exactly 2 minutes to siege the gates of Ara. As such, he takes the opportunity to get as close to her as possible without violating any terms of the deal. And so he attacks, first starting with a romantic kiss and proceeding to continue further on. Surprisingly, the most important woman on the planet reciprocates his advances, almost as if she's hiding her true self. Suddenly, Herring abruptly stops, causing Ara to ask why he just randomly stopped. Unfortunately, Herring discloses the fact that 2 minutes are already over, and like a true gentleman, he sticks to his words. But maybe our boy might get lucky today since it's lucky day 7, so Ara starts wondering what the heck is the noise she's hearing. Eventually, it dawns on her that it's actually her heart beating super fast, so clearly she wants to break the terms of the deal. And just like that, Ara pleads for another moment, just like when you're on a win streak, so you tell your friends you can't stop now. Before Herring could reply, Ara unleashes her true self, so she starts aggressively progressing their romance. Now, truth to be told, I thought we were going to get baited until the end of the series, but it's actually starting to unfold right before our eyes. At the same time, Eden is busy in the other room with the blondie, as he's plowing the fields of the blonde wolf with his banana plantation. Eventually, Eden's machine gets tired from doing farm work all day, so his machine explodes, causing milk to start splattering everywhere. With Eden and Blondie basically finished, we head back to the other room, where we find Ara taking charge of the entire situation, like a true queen. After pinning Herring to the ground like a savage, she orders him to not move a single inch, but lo and behold, something else starts to mature. With the unexpected turn of events, you can hear the collective shout of the audience screaming that finally we get to witness Herring x Ara. Eventually, her face disappears as she whispers to Herring that she was right, the sound she was hearing earlier was the sound of her heart beating for him. She then rips off the armor of Herring as if he's just some kind of defeated wolf after an intense battle, causing him to mutter the words, "Wait." With Ara now looking like she desperately needs some water since she's thirsty, Herring starts getting worried for her, telling Ara that her words are totally the opposite of her actions. But Herring closes his forbidden mouth real quick once Era tells him to shut up, claiming that he's the wicked one instead, almost as if she's astral projecting. With the turntables rapidly turning, the future queen begins to proclaim that her 1-minute deal is now officially revoked. And much to Herring's surprise, he witnesses Ara with his very own eyes quickly disassemble her own armor in front of him. She then starts talking in a slightly more provocative voice, telling Herring that they can do other stuff as long as he does not explode with her. After over 12 episodes, let it be known that today is the day Herring got to witness the twin dragons of Ara. With the dragons exposed in plain sight, Herring can't contain his rocket from blasting off into space and growing larger, so she starts wondering what the heck is rocketing into the gates. At first, she thought it was his arm being speedy, but in actuality, it's actually Herring's rocket blasting off inside its cage. With the banana plantation going crazy, Ara finally realized why they nicknamed Herring the Prince Behemoth, as it is indeed like Goliath. Things then continue to escalate as Ara is totally captivated at the sight of the Prince Behemoth, so I guess we have to call him the man now instead of my boy. Shortly after, Ara decides to gank Herring by instantly losing to her intrusive thoughts, catching Herring by surprise again, since she just instantly entered the rocket ship. Without any indications of her wanting to start riding the bike early in the morning, she sits on the rocket, asking Herring if this is the proper way you send girls into space. Before Herring could even respond, she decides it's time to try and engulf the rocket with her city, and somehow she instantly succeeds. With her city gates finally breached, she starts warning Herring to make sure she doesn't explode within the city gates, or else she will personally make him perish into the abyss. Unfortunately, it seems like Herring might actually make his first fatal mistake, as he can't handle how narrow the city walls are compared to every other city he's wandered into. Within a few seconds after, he makes the oofsy face, where he starts shouting that the cavalry is about to arrive unannounced, since he couldn't hold the line. Now today must be a glorious day for the Crimson Foxes, as they made Mount Eden and Mount Herring both erupt unannounced. Meanwhile, right outside Puzzle, Mu starts falling asleep, but he knows it's almost time for the couples to leave the Palace of Destiny. Eventually, they hear some noises coming from the doors of Puzzle, and it turns out that Mu's assumption was correct. The first ones out of Puzzle is actually Blondie and our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, with Blondie leading the way out. And right behind these two is the esteemed Lovebirds, the power couple that everyone on the planet is super invested in. All eyes then shift to Herring and Ara, since it is the first time ever that the #1 swordsman on the planet finally gave up her collar. After taking a closer look, we can see that she definitely left a mark on Herring, and the girls can tell whenever other girls enjoyed some nice rice cake destroying. With her lipstick on display on Herring's face, Blondie starts getting excited, wanting to know more tea about what happened inside. Blondie then starts going crazy, as she can't believe that Era is actually making the sussy face right after a rice cake duel. She then attempts to look behind her to see how Herring is doing, but the captain of the Black Thorn orders her to keep on looking forward. She explains that whatever happens in Puzzle stays inside the gates of Puzzle, so she needs to leave behind any lingering attachment. The higher-ups then smiled on, telling Ara to hurry up as they need to get back to headquarters first. With a surprised look still imprinted on one of the administrative heads of the Foxes, she orders Ara to buckle up, as today will be a long day for the strongest blade within the nations. However, Ara does not conform to tradition, as she decides to ignore everything said to her by looking back at Herring anyways. Herring then catches her stare as well, pretty much shocking both caravans, as traditions never get broken. After taking a good look at our boy, both Herring and Ara refuse to mutter a sound or a word before heading right back to their respective caravans. Yemi is then unable to fathom that their strongest blade just had to be smitten by Herring, just a random boy plucked from the country against his will. Meanwhile, Mu looks on like a proud father that didn't leave to grab some milk, telling Herring that it's okay to enjoy and take everything all in. The two intelligence officers also can't remove the smile off their faces, since Herring did not let down the entire nation of men. In fact, Herring achieved the opposite, as he will probably return back home as the hometown hero of all the guys. Fast forward to later in the evening, we find ourselves back at the palace of the Queen of the Crimson Foxes. A black thorn appears before the Queen, revealing to her that she has urgent news to deliver personally. And so she's allowed to relay the information, where the Queen discovers that the wolves have sent the official list of men coming to attend the Gomage. However, one person on the list just happens to be a man on the Crimson Foxes black list, whom happens to be Karim. Not only is Karim included to attend the Gomage, but much to the Queen's surprise, Herring is also supposedly attending, catching most of the Queen's attention. With the Gomage coming up, an event allowing girls to get rice cakes smashed by the elite wolves, she deviously plans a way to get rid of Ara, the strongest female on the planet. As such, she orders the head of the Black Thorn Guards to allow Era to partake in the Gomage, as she probably wants round 2 after yesterday. and so she happily looks into the night sky, hoping that something bad might happen to her challenger to the throne. Elsewhere, Herring the Prince Behemoth is busy sneaking around the wolves' headquarters, thinking it's a bit strange that he hasn't heard a single drop of noise. With him still unable to find anyone nearby, he starts scratching his head, making some of his dandruff fall off since he needs some head and shoulders. However, as he attempts to sneak a gassy fart since no one's nearby, he suddenly gets grabbed out of nowhere into a nearby room. The mysterious man that grabs him then explains that the day after you return from a mission always ends up being a temporary holiday, as all the elders get summoned to the main headquarters. The man's face is then revealed to be one of the lowly members, asking Herring if he feels something unusual today. But Herring nervously looks at him, unable to figure out what to say since it's only been a week since he joined the elite Garimbi squad. Eventually, after getting hold of his senses, he realizes that the entire room is full of other lowly members, all busy staring at him, probably jealous that he got to destroy the gates of Ara. Herring then stands there frozen, still failing to realize why the heck everyone gathered in this sussy room, only for him to finally relent and ask what he means. Suddenly, another impatient man pipes up, asking Herring what color was it. However, our boy still has no clue, so he starts trying to speak French to attempt getting out of the weird situation. Finally, a frustrated man brings up the fact that they are all talking about Ara's special catacombs, revealing that they all gather here today to find out about his experience at Puzzle. With it finally dawning on Herring, everyone starts to get flustered as they are all eager to find out more about Ara's special rice cake. The soy boy army then attempt to gaslight him into spilling the tea, claiming that it's his duty since he's the only one to ever experience the legendary Ara. Unexpectedly, Herring chads up, explaining to everyone that he could spill the beans, but he's not sure if they can handle it all. And so the boys start to get nervous, yet their curiosities get the better of them, as they need to know what a legend looks and feels like. As such, he starts trolling the entire room, but they all eat it up like gospel, unable to believe their ears. The boys then start panicking as Herring starts to explain how the gates of Ara is riddled with a huge forest full of tall grass. Apparently, it never got to experience a lawnmower. Eventually, the group gets enough as they almost run away after hearing that the gates of Ara supposedly smells like my feet, especially when they get soaked after a rain day. Regardless, upon hearing the entire ordeal from Herring himself, the entire group start pacing around the room, yelling at Herring, claiming that there's no way that could be true. Meanwhile, the Legend 27 herself is called to the office of her Blackthorn official, as they want to interrogate her about the day before. We then discover that Ione cannot fathom how she was unable to extract a seed from Herring, so she brought over the head of the health department to confirm her report. The health department head instantly confirms that Ara's report is 100% true, as they even used the most updated and latest seed securing equipment, yet they found nothing. However, Yeonhee still has her suspicions, since the two previous girls that encountered the Prince Behemoth ended up with the highest amount extracted ever. And so Yeonhee comes to the conclusion that she either hit the climax of the mountain first or she couldn't get the behemoth to show up that day. But Ara tries her best to deflect the questions only to fail, so she learns that in accordance to Fox rules, she must receive disciplinary actions. Now imagine getting in trouble since the boy she was with wasn't able to explode. Now that's paradise for a man for real. Anyways, Yeonhee reveals to Ara that she won't be able to partake in the upcoming Gomage now, as her punishment will force her to be busy that day, as she is tasked to keep an eye on a person of interest. Upon asking who it is, she discovers that she must keep an eye on her own Ultra Simp Tier 3 sub of hers, the legendary swordsman Karim. Yeonhee then continues, telling her that the game plan has to be adjusted, due to Karim being on the blacklist of the Crimson Wolves, so Gomage Day is going to be a nuisance. Furthermore, the future queen learns that her Prince Behemoth is coming to join the fray, so her lips instantly start puckering up almost as if it's natural instinct. With the unraveling of classified information, Ara learns that they partnered up 3 girls for Lucky Boy Herring, and one happens to be the first ever to experience the behemoth. The head of the health department then steps in, claiming that Danby happened to be the unlucky one, since they plucked her out of the behemoth's grasp right before Herring exploded. And so she gets given another chance by the universe to extract the most potent seeds of all. And this woman also gets a chance to participate, all thanks to Cow Lady. Nevertheless, Ara perks up, busy wondering why she has to share her prince with literally everyone on the planet, since all the girls fancy the boy. As such, Ara leaves the room after getting dismissed, but she shows emotion for the first time by slamming the door behind her in front of Yeonhee. With jealousy now seeping in the air, our boy needs to watch out since some crazy ones might take down his Prince Behemoth. The next day back at the headquarters, a black serang is called in for a secret and super classified mission. The commander then reveals that he's been ordered to infiltrate the heart of the Crimson Foxes on the day of the Gomage ritual, and he must do so without any question. Now this is the face of a man looking like he wants to destroy someone after finding out he won't be able to do some rice cake smashing the next day. Nevertheless, the commander debriefs him more on the mission, explaining that he needs to transport a special item to a designated location and to return in one piece. With the commander unable to really help one of his main members, all he can tell him is that he thinks the king is planning something big, and it's not Herring's behemoth. The Black Serang then leaves the headquarters to partake in his mission, but it turns out that he only made his face earlier due to him worrying about Karim and not the girls. And so the Black Serang is a true bro, as he will always have your back no matter what. As he goes on a tirade inside his own mind, the Black Serang ends up running into Herring heading into his room, but Herring stops him in his tracks. The two then point at each other like the Spider-Man meme, where both of them simultaneously tell each other that they need to talk. And so they decide to talk outside, but the Black Serang wants to know why he came out of the other room. So with some brotherly love, he checks inside the previous room. Upon peeking inside, he sees an entire squad losing their minds, where they are too busy repeating the color of the supposed rice cake of Ara. Regardless, the two continue on outside to exchange some vital information, as they want to know where the rest of the elite Garimbi squad could be. The best Herring could come up with is that maybe they are busy playing Roblox or Minecraft, but their theory crafting leads to nowhere, so he asks the Black Serang if he's ever attended the Gomage instead. Serang replies by claiming that the Gomage happens rarely, so this one coming up is the first one he's ever been invited to. He then reveals that only the top 10 squads of the elite forces is invited, but rookies are not allowed, so Herring's an exception. He also tells Herring that the strongest swordsman gets to pick who goes, so for the one upcoming, Karim decided that he's going to attend, as it's time to destroy some rice cakes. As he starts explaining more about the history, Herring zones out as he can't believe that he got invited, so him and his behemoth is super excited. Elsewhere, the elite Crimson Foxes go over and finalize the list for those participating, and it turns out most of the gang is allowed to come. However, this time, Yoni sternly reminds the girls that they really need to make sure they knock the boys out of the ballpark, as their life missions are on the line. Yumi also reassures them that the security will be top-notch with Ara and Blondie part of the defenses, so she slams the desk and orders them to stop being a sissy and to get ready. So without missing a beat, Mira chimes in asking if they can choose their partners, as she probably wants time with hipster Womb. Shortly after, Yumi actually allows them to choose their partners, so she does them a favor, before ushering them out of her office. After leaving her office, the 1000-step squad calls in the Pebbles squad next, but Alita Battle Angel starts talking about how the atmosphere now is full of excitement. The girl from Hunter x Hunter then brings up the fact that she can't believe Karim decided to participate, so she wonders who could be her partner. As usual, the girls enter Gossip Girls mode as they start wondering who the prime candidate could be, since Prince Behemoth took the girl he simped for an entire lifetime. In the end, they all get flustered as they all can't wait for some amazing rice cake destroying, since everyone wants it bad. Elsewhere, Blondie is busy complaining that she can't attend since she's a demon made for bike riding all day and all night. But her team captain tells her to shut up, so she does so hesitantly. A bit insulted, she has to keep her mouth shut. With the Countryside Blackthorn members on patrol for the first time in the main city, all the children start to get awestruck with their presence. Eventually, one of the kids realizes that she's actually Ara, so they begin following her and swarming her, unable to believe their eyes. One of the team captains of the Blackthorn gratefully show her appreciation to Ara, as she's happy she's here to help defend, since she is the rank 1 of all swordsmen. She then hopes that everything should be smooth sailing, but with Karim entering the event, everyone feels a little bit anxious. To ease some tensions, the captain asks Arad if she actually plans to challenge the throne after graduating from the Special Forces, in which she confirms. The captain then winks back as the Blondie looks on, claiming that the Blackthorn are all rooting for her to uproot the current queen. In the end, the captain reveals her name is Nobum, as she hopes one day Ara will remember her face and name, so Blondie looks on amused. Afterwards, they return from their sightseeing tour of the city, as they need to hurry to finish preparations for tomorrow's Gomage. Unluckily for Ara and Blondie, they can't get the rice cakes destroyed at the Gomage, as they will still be stuck under defensive duties. Instead, they are busy taking in their surroundings, as these elite Crimson Foxes have never really spent much time within the castle walls of the women-only city. Suddenly, as Arad is busy patrolling around, a young girl comes up to her with a picture of a legendary swordsman in hand. She then starts screaming for her mom, unable to believe the first sword of the Crimson Foxes is literally right in front of her own eyes. Afterwards, the girl starts screaming that it's Ara and quickly points at her, causing everyone to stop in their tracks and look in awe at the mythical legend. It was at this very moment the Blackthorn knew they screwed up, as every woman within earshot starts running to crowd Ara. In amazement, they stare at her like how I stare at Justin Bieber or Miley Cyrus, since she's the hero of the Crimson Foxes. Regardless, everyone wants her autograph, so it's basically the real-life equivalent of an Amaranth meetup, except the fans don't smell, and they happen to be girls as well. Eventually, Ara gets enough of the famous life, so she picks up the girl and flies off into a distant area to get away. However, she picks the wrong area to land at, as she lands in front of a statue depicted of her apparent reincarnation as the destined ruler of the Foxes. As such, more girls from afar join in on the hectic crowding as they get awestruck at the insane similarity to the goddess named Aria. Elsewhere, Blondie is surprised that some of the city girls even know of her heroics, but little do they know she's also a menace to men's banana plantations. In the end, the trio are forced to retreat into hiding, due to more and more people appearing from nowhere to try and get their autograph. Meanwhile, back at Wolves territory, Herring the Chad meets Karim the Simp once again, so the atmosphere is tense due to our Simp being the head Discord mod for the Ara fan club. With the rest of the elite Garimbi squad arriving to meet up as well, Karim continues to hold his death stare at Herring, still salty like my tears that Ara chose Herring over him. As Karim still refuses to say anything, Herring decides to just walk away, as it feels too awkward for him having his soul pierced constantly with the eyes of another man. But as Herring almost fully disappears, Karim finally speaks and reveals that the palace offered him an offer that he could not refuse, so he tells everyone that something big will change after the Gomage. Karim then drops a nuclear bomb, telling everyone that none of them will never get back to Wolf territory, and they'll even be lucky to survive. He continues on explaining that he can't really reveal any more details, but know that he will try his best to survive for the week. Afterwards, the captain dramatically walks off into the sunset as if he's trying to be the main protagonist of this super family-friendly story. Anyways, with the sudden change of everyone's demeanor, Herring starts to think that the rice cake experience at the Gomage must be so crazy that it has made the entire Garimbi elite speechless. After a while, no one else from the squad says a word, so Herring ends up coming to the conclusion that Karim must still be mad that he got to destroy Era's precious rice cakes. Fast forward to everyone back at headquarters, there we find Hipster Wone explaining that everyone participating in the Gomage will get a special one-week vacation. And so, like a true bro, Herring's roomie tells him to not mind what the captain said and to just enjoy life, since he is armed with a Prince Behemoth. But our boy is unable to sleep as his Prince Behemoth accidentally got fully charged by the thought of all the girls available at the Gomage. And so he looks on into the night sky, thinking to himself that it's worth everything to destroy rice cakes, so at least he got to experience that. Eventually, he falls asleep as his towering behemoth goes limp due to the cold air seeping into his dreamlike state, busy dreaming about Ara. Inside his dreams, we discover that our boy is actually such a Sigma male as he takes on multiple girls at once that has previously ganked him for his banana seeds. He then puckers up as Danby, the OG fox that got to experience his otherworldly machine first, appears as well, although things quickly take a turn. Danby then goes crazy, as if she's the star of a random Black Mirror episode, and whips out a weapon, furiously asking why she was the only one that never got to bear a child from the Prince Behemoth. Shortly after, Danby tags in Ara, who looks possessed by some kind of evil spirit, as she's enraged that he was not able to control his oil spill within her garden, as she did not want a loose hose exploding everywhere. So then he wakes up totally exhausted and terrified, but at least he got to avoid the mystical oofsie that happens when you dream about girls too much every night. Never mind, it still happened as he accidentally spilled his banana-flavored milk during his dreams. After having to clean his pants off due to the untimely explosion, he heads shamelessly into the kitchen, since he's hungry now from all the sieging he's been commanding during his dreams. However, he notices his dad missing from his room, so he ends up attempting to stalk him in his own self-made stealthy mission. He then catches his dad looking all cool and suspect in the middle of the night, so maybe he's trying to pull off the "I'm grabbing some milk, but I'll be back later" move on Herring. He then interrupts him as he tries to leave, exposing him by claiming that he didn't know his own father loved taking midnight strolls trying to look like Kakashi. As such, Chad Dad replies by saying that he's just washed now, exactly like Sentinel's 10s, as he didn't expect Herring to be home right now. Nonetheless, the two take a moment to eat good, right before Herring starts interrogating him on what the heck he's doing during the middle of the night. His dad then starts sending dad jokes flying relentlessly into Herring, trying to avoid having to spill the beans as he does not want to unleash his pods. Eventually, Milkbomb reveals that there are two secret groups that have formed within the Wolves and the Foxes, and their goal is to reunite the world. He then continues on, telling Herring that the people he meets at night are actually the most ruthless traitors in Black Wolf's history, and he's secretly one of them. Afterwards, Herring furiously finishes his soup, but finally understands why his dad always told him that he's destined to be king, as it's all probably part of his secret plans. Regardless, the conversation turns to Mukbum asking Herring if Karim really didn't reveal anything to him, only for him to retell the fact that Karim thinks none of them will be able to get back home. With nothing substantial leaked by Karim, Mook supposes that not only will there steamy volcanoes erupt during Gomei's time, but an uprising will occur as well. Now I bet Herring is a bit sad, since he just wanted to plant some seeds into foxes. Instead, his dad wants a real uprising and not the one the boys will experience during the Gomei. Elsewhere, the King of the Black Wolves cosplays Batman as he overlooks the capital of the wolves while crouching down, ordering his men to make their move. He then shouts that the time has now finally come for the men to reclaim the world as the true rightful power, and they will make the foxes their slaves. Fast forward to the day of the Gomei, we get introduced to a director of the foxes and a branch manager inside the royal palace of the foxes. It turns out that these two are actually part of the secret group that Mukbum is in, so they are basically the female equivalent. Regardless, the two are most worried about what the wolves have planned in regards to the blue columbines, as they still have no idea why the wolves are so fixated on them. But before they could continue on with sharing more intel, they get interrupted by Edo Nirin, the captain of the palace guards. If these two were able to win her over to their side, then undoubtedly they will have more power over the current queen of the foxes, although they don't want to risk it all. Nevertheless, we find the current queen of the foxes busy practicing her skills, as she's hell-bent on destroying the future challenger to the throne. And she actually looks super skilled with her attacks, so maybe she has something up her sleeve. Unfortunately, she's never experienced a true Prince Behemoth. As the queen takes off her mask and with rice cakes on display, Nirin debriefs the queen about the two underground organizations, where the group of men are called Lotus Roots, while the group of women are called Water Hyacinths. The queen then scoffs at the aspect of a united world where men and women live together, since everyone deserves rice cake smashing and not just the strongest. Anyways, the queen is such a savage as she wants to capture every water hyacinth and release them to the wolves in the middle of their try-on halls. Basically, she's a crazy sussy baka, and if I explain what she wanted done to the traders on YouTube, then the channel will get banned. Regardless, Nirin instantly figures out that the queen wants to target Ra and pin her as a traitor, since she's the only threat to her throne. As such, Nirin walks with two of her commanders to reveal that from this point on, the Black Thorn will be officially at war. But first, their number one priority is to secure the Gomei, as rice cake destroying and seed extraction is the utmost priority for the Crimson Foxes. Elsewhere, Herring's hometown throws a massive party for our Prince Behemoth, as every single man wishes him the best since they all probably want to be in his shoes instead. And so they all start yelling at Herring, telling him to clap the Crimson Foxes for them instead, and to make sure that the foxes explode first before he does. As such, the Prince Behemoth gets flustered as he's forced to watch his village cheer him on as the caravan taking him to the Gomei departs. However, it seems as if Herring is not